When can a business engage in telemarketing to cell phones or text marketing to cell phones? Well, the rules regarding telemarketing to cell phones are stricter than the rules regarding landlines. Why? Because calls to cell phones are, well, honestly, a lot more invasive. We all carry our cell phones with us and have them at all times. Whereas your landline might ring numerous times during the day if you still have a landline and you didn't have to be interrupted. What are the rules regarding cell phone telemarketing? Well, there are federal and state laws that apply. For example, both the FTC and FCC regulate telemarketing. In particular, the FCC's law, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, and the regulations and rulings the FCC passed to clarify and expand upon that law contain a lot of relatively new cell phone rules. For example, as of October 2013, telemarketers were no longer allowed to use an auto dialer to call cell phones without prior express written consent, or even for non-marketing messages without at least express consent that can sometimes be implied by the recipient's prior provision of the number. So, to review, if a telemarketer wants to use any form of an auto dialer, automatic telephone dialing system, or ATDS as they call it, the telemarketer must have prior express written consent to use that auto dialer to call a cell phone. For a non-marketing message, like a debt collection message or a delivery confirmation, for example, there is a lower standard of consent needed to auto dial or auto text that cell phone. That is the express consent standard. Express consent can be implied under the TCPA if the consumer gave the number to the company in the normal course of business without conditions and hasn't opted out or had their number reassigned. Also, the purpose of the messages being sent needs to be closely related to the purpose for which the telephone number was originally collected. What about texting? Well, the FCC and FTC have both clarified that a text is a call is a text. Anytime a rule talks about a call, the analysis will be essentially the same for a text. So just like you cannot auto dial a cell phone without written consent, you may not auto text a cell phone without written consent. How do you comply with these cell phone rules? Well, you could just not use an auto dialer. As long as the number is not on a do not call list, for example, you may manually call that cell phone number for telemarketing purposes as long as you do not use any system that might be construed as an auto dialer. What if you need to use an auto dialer and you have no prior consent? Well, you need to obtain a list of cell phone numbers and scrub against or suppress those numbers and make sure you don't call cell phones. How do you do that? Well, there are a number of vendors out there, if you spend a few minutes on Google, who will sell you those scrubs. There are at least two lists you need to ensure your vendor is scrubbing against. One is a national list of cell phone numbers. I call it the carrier file. This is essentially a list of wireless prefixes or blocks of telephone numbers originally assigned to cell phones. The other list is the ported wireless number list. That is a list of telephone numbers that used to be landlines but were recently ported or changed to become cell phones. You need to be scrubbing against these lists frequently in order to have a wireless safe harbor.